This video is brought to you by Recurrent, an essential EV tool that gives free access to TFL EV viewers in the US. With Recurrent, EV shoppers can check range and battery info on used cars. EV owners can connect to compare their range and battery health to similar vehicles. And EV sellers can use Recurrent to get more money for their sales. With Recurrent, we can find, drive, and sell electric cars positively. Click on the link in the description below to get free access to Recurrent's amazing EV tools.
EVs are boring. Well, at least that's what a lot of people say online because they're typically designed for efficiency, and efficiency is a lot like me. Nobody wants to talk about it, but this is not an EV designed for charge rates or efficiency or for saving the planet necessarily. This is an EV designed to be first and foremost fun. That's above practicality, that's above efficiency, that's above pretty much anything else, because what we're looking at today is the new Hyundai Ioniq 6N, and Hyundai has flown me out to their California design studio to check out this Ioniq 6N and find out what it's all about. The Ioniq 5N has been around for a while now, and the Ioniq 5N kind of proved to the world that Hyundai was serious about trying to make this EV thing fun. It introduced the faux shifting, and it introduced the faux engine noise, and it did a lot of really cool things that has never been attempted, or really never been attempted since, on the vast majority of electric cars. But here's the thing about the Ioniq 5N. Hyundai was fighting a little bit of an uphill battle when it came to turning that car into a performance monster, because at its core, it's fundamentally an SUV. But the Ioniq 6N is based on the same architecture called the eGMP platform, but it's lower to the ground. It's called a streamliner design, right? With this kind of 1930s retro futuristic, super smoothed out profile. And along with the Ioniq 6N comes a bunch of changes to the Ioniq 6 in general to make it a little bit more attractive. I mean, a lot more attractive. Now, of course, you get very interesting colors, and I love this Robin Eggs blue that Hyundai does on their end products, but they also incorporate the flat black Hyundai badges and, of course, your end badging in that kind of satin finish. But then what really complements the front end of this car is the crazy intake, right? Now, when you think electric car, you think flat front, and in some cases, dimples that look like a golf ball. Hyundai said, screw that. What we need is air intake, because this car has significantly more cooling capacity than the standard Ioniq 6. So it's got this huge, wide front end with these massive intakes and these grille shutters that allow a lot more air to pass into the intake of the Ioniq 6 and allow for some of that cooling. But the result is a much more attractive front end design that I think looks more internal combustion like, but it really complements the kind of the performance attitude of this car. And then you've got this bright orange accent line along the front end of this vehicle. And it actually continues all the way down the side as well. Now, coming down the side, a couple of things I appreciate on the 6 that's different than the 5. So wheel tire package, 20-inch wheel instead of a 21. It's got a little bit of that aero disc profile, but it doesn't look like one of those dumpy gumdrops that we see on some EVs. And then this is a Pirelli P0 tire. It is an EV focused tire, but it's the 5th generation of P0. Yeah, it's pretty aggressive, right? This is going to be a summer only tire. You wouldn't want to take this in the snow, but this is a primarily track focused, fun to drive focused car. It does have blacked out B pillars and this little C pillar to kind of emphasize the profile of this car. The one thing I don't like on these 6s, the door handles, they just don't need to be electric. You know, I understand maybe the appeal of from an aero standpoint of a door handle that sucks itself in, but it's just a little bit of a nuisance to me. Now, one thing you're gonna notice, especially in this white, is the complete black rear end on this 6N. So you get this kind of piano black finish on this applique here on the trunk, and then it's got a shiny, a gloss black bumper. That's a little controversial, but I think the part that's gonna be either love or hate is the wing. Now, here's the thing. Right, this is a give and take situation, because typically on EVs you want as little drag as possible, as a little preventing the car from going through the air as possible. And you know, the point of a wing like this is to provide downforce to the rear end. So Hyundai really has to balance that, right? It's got the wing for the looks. It is a functional unit, but at the same time, they don't want it to be dragging the car down so hard that it gets 6.5 miles of range. So what Hyundai says is that this does provide downforce. Now, at the top speed of this car, which is 159, 160 miles an hour is what they say, this provides about 200 pounds of downforce. It's not a lot, okay? So, you know, in my opinion, considering the size and heft of an EV, this is more or less a design element. I know it is functional, but once again, they're balancing, like, do we suck it to the ground so it doesn't move and also doesn't go very far, or do we make it exclusively visual? There's a couple tricks they've implied with explored. There's a couple things they've done with this wing to make it a little bit more slippery through the air. Like, it's got that cool GT3 RS style top mount now, which they say is more efficient, but it's going to be something you either love or hate. Drop me a comment below what you think. The Ioniq 6N has an 84 kilowatt hour battery pack, and range we don't know. Now keep in mind, the Ioniq 5N has about 221 miles of range, and I'm told by the Hyundai folks here this will go further, which makes sense because it's slipperier through the air. They won't tell me how much further though, so we're gonna know that closer to launch in this vehicle, which they say is the first half of 2026, but they say nothing official, figures somewhere in the range of 230-ish miles on a charge. So it's not gonna be a range monster, but once again, it's got the same powertrain battery pack as the Ioniq 5N. So 0 to 60, according to Hyundai, about 3.2 seconds, and that's thanks to the horsepower. So we're looking at 600 horsepower combined between front and rear motors, but there is that engine boost function, which for 10 seconds, you get an additional 40 horsepower. So the total peak output is a truly insane 641 horsepower. Whew. That's some pretty serious power. And of course, there's no transmission, it's a full EV. Or is there? Now the steering wheel is the same steering wheel as the Ioniq 5N. It feels great. It's the perfect thickness. It's got the contrasting stitching. You've got the N-Grin boost button here. You also have your drive mode control here. And then you've got your programmable N buttons on the left and the right side of the steering wheel. Now 12.3-inch displays, new operating system on this Ioniq 6N compared to the old Ioniq 6N. A pretty standard Hyundai though in terms of how all of that works. And then below that you do have a nice array of physical controls: home, map, search. You know, you got your volume and 2 knobs. Wahoo! Some physical controls there. We have our climate control beneath that, which is kind of this little touch sensitive panel. I would prefer a more tactile experience, but anyways, another good thing below that, USB-C charging, now 100 watts. So except for the USB connectivity, you get 100 watts front and back. You get your wireless charger below that, heated and ventilated seats in this little panel. This is new for the new Ioniq 6N, this new kind of floating display. They've moved the window switches a little bit further forward, a little bit more toward the driver here. All that's very intuitive. A couple of large cup holders. I do like this floating thing because you get all this space underneath, and you got a good sized center console there as well. Ambient lighting throughout. I like these little wings on the dashboard. Seats, same seats as Ioniq 5N, very bolstered. If you're a larger American-sized gentleman, maybe a little bit too tight, but for me, who's got the strength of a gerbil, feels really, really good here. And then the most controversial part, by far, the sound, right? The integrated sound. Now, Hyundai's actually adjusted this compared to the 5N. Instead of like that 2-channel thing, it's now a full 6-channel, still based on that 2-liter turbo. You can turn it off if you don't like it, and then it also has the simulated shifting, so you can shift via the paddles here. You can go into the N settings here on the display. It's got a cool little display that shows all of the things: the N torque distribution, N pedal, N drift optimizer. All of these have been a little bit tweaked, and this sound profile that some people complained was limited to the fact that you had to be in N mode. You can now do in all sorts of different modes. I also like this little like red line indicator. And another interesting thing with the simulated shift points, that, you know, will simulate shift points. It will stop you from accelerating in a gear if you hit the red line. They've actually re-geared the car compared to the Ioniq 5N, which sounds crazy in a fully electric vehicle. But what I'm told is the top of 2nd gear in an Ioniq 5 is now the top of 3rd gear in an Ioniq 6. So you can get more of that pleasure of shifting the car yourself without just blasting past the speed limit. Pretty crazy. Now, Now, popping open the trunk in the Ioniq 6N, it is a power operated trunk. It is still a trunk, not a full hatch. And you will notice, just like the Elantra N over there, it does have some structural bracing at the back portion of this vehicle. Now, this of course does hinder quite greatly the storage capacity of this vehicle. Excuse me while I pull these little latches, there we go, to put the seats down. So the seats do still come down, but you got these bars in place, and it's worth noting that because this is a bigger, heavier car, they're actually thicker bracing than you're gonna find on the Hyundai Elantra N. Well, folks, let me know what you guys think of the Ioniq 6N in the comments section below. It goes on sale first half of 2026. Pricing, it's gonna be expensive, figure over $70,000, but 3.2 seconds, 0 to 60, and a drift mode. This is one seriously cool EV. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Huge thank you to Hyundai for flying me out to California for a quick first look at the Ioniq 6N, and we'll see you in the next one.